Years ago, before I was incarcerated, I was a couple days clean, still dope sick, laying on the couch, singing Al Green. And I realized that I hadn't sang for months. And when I'm using, I don't sing.
Welcome to inTUNE, Stories of Connection Through Music. This is the podcast where we explore stories from educators, artists, and community leaders who are using music to break down barriers and build community. We'll look at how inclusion shows up in private studios, classrooms, in community programs, and even inside correctional facilities. And I'll share a few stories and strategies that might just shift the way you think about teaching and connection through music. Whether you're a teacher, a musician, a parent, or someone who simply believes in the power of music to bring people together, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Martiros, a music educator, consultant, and the founder of opporTUNEity, an organization that uses music to connect people across backgrounds, bridge divides, and open doors. Hey everyone, welcome back to inTUNE. My guest today is Travis. Travis and I have known each other since 2019. He was in our very first cohort inside the Worcester County House of Correction, and later became part of our very first songwriter circle on Zoom during COVID. He's 35 now. He has an 8-month-old son named Nico, and reached out to me recently because he wanted music class recommendations for him. That's how he and I reconnected, and that's how this conversation started. I think it's one of the best ones I've had. Okay, Travis, tell me who you are.
Yeah, I'm Travis. I grew up in this area in Auburn. I'm a dad now, which is the most important thing that I am currently and that I've ever been. I'm a hard worker and I'm a curious person. I'm a good friend. I guess that's how I describe myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a good dad?
I think I'm a great dad.
Okay. You graduated from Auburn High School?
I did.
Okay.
Yep.
And now you're back there living in Auburn and raising your family?
Yep.
Okay. And you recently reached out to me because you wanted music lessons for your son, right?
We went to Jump because Megan, my wife, had read a lot about it, has great reviews. Bringing him to Jump and getting to spend time with him and see him interact with other kids and interact with the music and with the instruments and everything. It's been a joy for me, and I think it's really good for him too. Something I shared with my dad growing up was music, was singing.
Okay.
And I want to share that with him.
Jump is awesome. My kids took classes there, and I do want to plug them. Joy of Music program in Worcester. They give us their space in kind for our youth programs. I love that you're doing that. I love that you're embracing that. Yeah. So that's awesome. So, okay, let's talk about music. You said you and your dad had that as you were growing up. So when did that start?
Yeah, my dad especially, he sang me Summertime before bed every night. Summertime,
okay,
is easy. And we always had jazz or classical music.
Playing over the speakers.
Yeah. Driving in the truck. Did a lot of James Taylor singing with him. And I remember being like 12 years old, middle school, maybe freshman year, and driving with him down Southbridge Street in Auburn and just banging some James Taylor, just singing, you know? And my friend called me on my cell phone. It was like, dude, I just passed you. What are you and your dad arguing about? And I laughed, but it made me realize that our connection with music was something special, and our connection as a father and son was something special that other kids might not get to experience.
Okay, yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And you're trying to pass it on to your son.
I am, yeah.
Did you have any formal music lessons or classes?
I went to the Packagug Music School and did trumpet for a little while when I was a kid. We went to Packagug Church, so I was in the choir there. But no, outside of that, no formal vocal training or musical training. Okay,
so Summertime is like something you hold in your heart. Are there other songs that you just really have emotional love for, connection to?
I remember I was in art class in first grade or second grade, and you know how art teachers are in grade school, right? So it's a whole experience.
It's a real vibe.
A real vibe. She would play music, and she played, I didn't know what it was then. I heard it years later and was like, that's the song, which was Canon.
Oh, like Canon and D?
Exactly, a wedding song. She had it playing, and I became like emotional. I got teary-eyed. Which has been something atypical in my life. Not like I'm not in touch with my emotions. It's just I haven't had many experiences where I felt overwhelmed and could not control the emotion coming out of it. And it stayed with me because it was just a song. It was just a song.
Yeah, and you were young.
And I was young, yeah.
It's also powerful. Okay, so Summertime in Canada D. What about now? Is there a song that you connect with your son over?
Go back to James Taylor again. Since he was in the womb, I've been singing him Sweet Baby James.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is
so
his name
that's no, it's Nico. I just been singing him that song, and I got so many. There's so many for him. Like, you know, in relationships, you build your own language a little bit, right? So my wife and I have our own language, and since he's been born, we've made up our own songs, and so we just have songs that are silly or based off, you know, other tunes. But he has a whole soundtrack that's specially created for him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So it sounds to me like your whole life music has had a real central place in you emotionally.
For sure.
Before you were incarcerated, did you do any songwriting?
Not much. Some poetry writing sporadically, but song singing.
You sang a lot.
Yeah, other people's songs. It was difficult for me in the opporTUNEity program in Worcester House. I almost like take it too seriously and like writer's block. And this has been an issue my whole life, setting these like high expectations of perfection without any revision. And that was something that took me a while to get comfortable with, but to see other people doing that in class, throwing something on paper and being okay with it and going back to revise it and saying like, okay, this isn't perfect or it might not ever be perfect, but this is something good to build off of.
Okay.
So I've always wished that I wrote music.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
Right. So that's really interesting because I've had a lot of different conversations with individuals to talk about the benefits of arts programs, music programs in jails.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think yet the theme of perfectionism and working through the process of just getting sloppy with something and being okay with that, I don't think that's ever come up. We came into the jail in 2019 and you were the first cohort. Mm-hmm. How long had you been there before we came in?
It was October of 2018.
Okay. So about a year you had been there.
Yep.
Okay. You had been passionate about singing and had a heart for it, but you had not really ever made something your own. So when you heard about opporTUNEity, a songwriting class, what compelled you to do that?
I saw guys going up back and forth, and I saw the music thing on the wall, and guys knew that I liked to sing.
Did you sing in your cell?
Yeah. I had a great roommate. He'd go cook in the kitchen, and I would take some private time in the cell to sing.
And other people could hear you singing in your cell?
For sure, but I didn't want to bother everybody. Some people don't want to listen to that, right? Try to respect the tier. He'd come back from work, and I'd stop singing.
So about how many hours a day would you say you just sat in your block and sang?
Those three things that I did was exercise, read, and sing.
Did you sing Summertime?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, any song that
came to mind.
There was this Puerto Rican kid, and he was like, damn, you know more Spanish songs than I do, right? My best friend from 4th grade to the end of high school, his family's from El Salvador.
Okay.
So I learned Spanish.
Got it, through them.
Living with them, really, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so somebody mentioned there's a music thing up there. I'm like, nah, I don't need to take classes. And I said, why not? I'm always singing. I love music. And I can go to one class and never go to one again. So I went to the class. And it was not how guys described other classes. And there was real people there, like you're a real person. I know that staff at the jail are real people too, but it seems like a lot of folks enter the jail and they become personnel, but not person. So you and the Toms?
Yeah, there was Tom and Dan.
Tom and Dan.
Dan Thomas.
Yeah.
That was the connection.
Yeah, okay. You were people and you treated us like people, and there wasn't this air of superiority or of fear. It was just people being people together. And that's really what made me continue coming back at the beginning.
We talk a lot about humanity, just focusing on humanity and bridging the gap between what their life experiences has been and bringing them into the jail and having human experiences with other humans who happen to be incarcerated. And it sounds like that really kind of hit you as something that made you want to keep coming back.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so You like to sing, and that was part of your survival. Maybe that was part of your survival mechanism your whole childhood.
Yeah, 100%. You know, like I've had therapists over the year, court ordered, or because I should go. And a question that like therapists, psychologists always ask is like, what do you do for fun? And that it's hard for me to come up with that answer, but I've always said it's sing. It's the most therapeutic thing that I've ever experienced. I've had issues with drug addiction. Years ago, before I was incarcerated, I was a couple days clean, still dope sick, laying on the couch, singing Al Green. And I realized that I hadn't sang for months. And when I'm using, I don't sing. I've never used with this intention, but looking back on it, the point of using is to like disconnect, to not feel things, to not remember things. I'm not an active participant in my own life, right? Like I'm just somebody who's using. And it steals whatever little bit of joy that I have in my life. It takes me out of my relationships. It takes me out of my curiosity, and it takes me out of music too, which is like the biggest joy. Yeah.
Can we peel it back a little bit and talk about when you first started using? Because I assume your drug addiction is what got you into the facility in the first place. So at what point in your life did you start using?
Right around maybe 19, 20 years old.
Okay. So you were clean until then?
I think my first addiction was money, and that had the same purpose.
When was that? When did that start?
Freshman year of high school. I was a good student, or got good marks. I was hyperactive, behavioral issues, but...
Like ADHD?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My grandparents were immigrants. My grandmother specifically from Scotland, her husband, this is on my dad's side, Armenian.
Okay.
His parents were from the genocide.
Okay.
Emigrated. And then on my mom's side, Italian.
Okay. All your grandparents immigrated. They were first generation.
Yeah, except for my grandfather on my mom's side.
Okay.
So, but especially my grandmother on my dad's side was like a matriarchal family, and she was like, when we came, my mother took out a loan, used that loan to open a secured loan, took the secured loan, paid off the old loan, and now she had credit, right? Money was such an important thing, and it meant security and safety. And freshman year, I realized people like drugs and like alcohol, and so I started selling drugs.
Before you were using, you were selling.
Yeah, my father's a recovering addict and alcoholic, and he was honest with me growing up, and I was like, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to do drugs. But I was okay selling them, right? Because money was the addiction. So, yeah, that went on up until like I was a full-blown addict, and then all that I could do was use. Had like a back injury, I'll call it, congenital issue, but so I was in a lot of pain, and this was the age of doctors feeding narcotics to whoever. So
you didn't choose to use what you were selling. You got injured, you were prescribed something, and then that was just the downfall.
Yeah, and money was already covering up like my addiction. The money was already covering up those inside things. But every addiction at some point, I feel like it stops working. It's really good with no problems, and then the scales start to tip. And I was introduced to opiates through the doctor, and then I pursued them independently because it covered up what I was trying to cover up, trying to avoid.
And you had the access to them because you were selling, right? So you had a network outside of your doctor.
Correct.
You were 19. What were you doing at the time? Were you working?
I took a couple of years off, went to school. My addiction messed with that.
Like you went to college?
Yeah, to Quincy.
Okay.
I ended up dropping out because of drug addiction, but I had worked at an outpatient therapeutic place for adolescents, and I facilitated group therapy. We specialized in autism spectrum disorders. So I had been working there for years. I started working there at 16. And then when I was graduating high school, I took over like managing the business under the LMHC. And there was a lot of opportunity for me in that field. I enjoyed it. I had some like natural talent in it. But, you know, the drug addiction again stole that too.
Yeah. So where's the gap? So like by the time you were 19, 20, you were fully addicted, right?
I'd say by the time I was 19, it happened pretty quickly. 19 was taking drugs. 20 was taking drugs daily, like say addicted. 21, like full-blown, like junkie. Got into heroin. I stayed strictly opiates. Didn't smoke weed, didn't drink, didn't do coke. But 21 was like full-blown addict, and that's when I left that job.
So 19, you had started opiates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you started to do heroin because you needed something a little bit stronger, or?
Yeah, it was a combination of that, and as surprising as it may be, I was getting all this Percocet and OxyContin from my pediatrician. So I aged out from my pediatrician and got a new primary care. And I think by that point it was obvious that I was drug seeking, that I was addicted, so I got cut off. I was using an ungodly amount of Percocet because I was still selling at that point. I had the money and I used by myself, so I didn't have any criteria for what was normal or abnormal drug use.
Right.
And it's exponential. So I got cut off, and around that same time I stopped selling because I was just chasing.
Like in a spiral at this point.
Yeah.
And you weren't making money. Okay, so then what happened?
Yeah, I went to a halfway house in Gardner. The courts sentenced me. One of those times when like I had money, but I was a full-blown addict.
Why did they sentence you though? Did something happen?
So I got continuance without a finding. I was on probation. They sent me to that halfway house because it was obvious that I was a drug addict and I need help. I didn't have any resistance to getting clean, but I didn't have any interest in getting clean. I'd kind of just given up. It was my first OUI. They weren't going to lock me up, but I think like the courts, to their credit, sometimes they're like, this kid needs help and he needs supervision. So yeah, I went through that. They forced us to go to AA. They forced us to do the 12 steps. We had group meetings in the house, and I stayed clean long enough that things got better by accident, just by the nature of being clean, and encouraged me to want to stay clean. I went to the sober house after I graduated, got a job at the local hospital working in the ER, and was on track again. Went back to school to Mount Wachusett. In that drug dealing time before the addiction, somebody tried to rob me, hit me with a pipe. So my tooth is messed up.
Oh, hit you in the face with a pipe.
It hit me in the head with a pipe in the back. My back was messed up at that point. He threw my elbow up. They broke my elbow and my forearm.
He didn't just hit you, he beat the shit out of you.
Yeah,
okay.
they got me.
There's a difference between what hitting and what happened to you.
Yeah, so they got me pretty good, yeah. So I had a plate in my arm and my elbow.
How old were you?
I think I was 18.
Okay.
Yep. That metal, that plate got infected when I'm working at the hospital, and that led to multiple surgeries to get the infection out, to remove the plate.
So after your halfway house rehab, AA, so you're on the right track.
Yeah, and by this point, like, I had bought into it. Like, I was going to meetings independently, and I was glad to be clean and to be sharing that with other people too who were struggling. But that infection, it was 4 surgeries, it was opiates prescribed, and it was like back into using again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it got clean again after that, independently, relapsed again after that, and I had relapsed for a short period before I became incarcerated in 2018. I had an assault rifle in the car, and somebody called the cops on me. I wasn't in my vehicle. I wasn't doing anything with it at the time, but a family member called on me because they knew I had a loaded assault rifle in the car. They knew that I had just recently relapsed. They thought I was a threat to myself, and it was ignorance to the justice system. Hey, he's got a loaded weapon in his car, he's using, he needs help. Take this gun, get it away from it, do whatever you do, and let this kid get some help. But the cops, they're not going to take an AK out of somebody's car and be like, oh, this is a good person, we're going to let him go to detox. So that's what led to me being incarcerated.
So you didn't actually harm anyone?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were sentenced for how many years?
18 months. Yeah.
All right. So a year into that, we meet you, and you're singing. You've reconnected with your voice.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing drugs because you're in jail.
Yep.
And so you're basically either working out or singing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then we met you, and let's talk about the process. You talked about connecting with the teachers and the humanity, and that connection more than the music is what made you want to keep coming back. But then you talked about how the process of songwriting was hard for you because you have a standard of perfectionism, and trying to break through that wall was rough. So can we explore that a little bit? Because from what I recall from the early stages of the classes, the initial process was what they called object writing, where they'd throw a word on the wall, or the group would choose a word, and then you would free write for 10 minutes. The point of that process was to help people get out of their minds and just like write whatever the hell comes to mind, right? Some of the songs that you wrote were really good. You had a real talent for lyric writing. I mean, certainly poetry. You were a gifted writer and you're very articulate. So that was evident. And you wrote music that was like right in the heart, all of it, like Tears of a Clown, Wish I May. And I would say that the teachers, if you talk to them now, they would say that like, Travis had a beautiful voice and just a real talent for writing and for writing music. I'm feeling miserable today. My life is getting crazy. My life is pissed because I had another baby. She's making my life a living hell. Trouble follows me, I wanna get out. My life is. So how did you get there? For somebody who you're saying that there was a barrier and it was difficult for you to get messy with the process. You had never written before, but you could sing and you had been exposed to a lot of music. So what did that look like? How did you get to writing those songs over time?
You mentioned like that free writing, and I recall like that first time doing it, having nothing written down. Progressively, I started writing more. So it's a good practice, and I've gone back to school again recently.
Good.
I had an English class where we free wrote, and what a great practice. So that was definitely part of it. And then I worked a lot with John Wayne, so collaboration, where I sat with John Wayne a lot, this kid Peanut, Chris, and those guys were amped, they were excited, they were fearless, they were just writing down. And so I was able to see how they did it and learn from them and get comfortable like jumping in on their lyrics, to watch them write lyrics and put a little bit of input and then start putting in lyrics and then start actually like having a collaborative revision with those guys and not worry about the end result and just be part of the process there.
Okay. So having the other individuals that were different personality types help bring you out of your shell a little bit.
For sure.
Okay. Have you carried any of that with you? That's a hard question.
Yeah, it's a hard question, but there's an answer. Yes. It helped me to take myself less seriously and to have less expectations of other people. Not that they deserve lower expectations, but because I don't always have the right way. I can learn from other people who have different experiences, education, or childhoods. It just opened my mind up to being more collaborative, being more open to learning from other people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then as you work through the whole semester towards the concert, what are some of the other impacts that being an opportunity had?
Yeah. Before I was sentenced, knowing I was going to be sentenced, and say, I'm here. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to be upset about it. I'm just going to do it. And then figure out what I was going to do with that time.
The 18 months.
Yeah. And sure, like I exercised, I read, and I sang. Those were like the 3 activities that I did, but I spent a lot of time reflecting on myself. So, old habits die hard, trying to train myself to be the person that I wanted to be. That was my whole experience up until opporTUNEity. And I had a couple friends that I hung out with that I would exercise with, and they're still friends today. One guy got released more than a year before me, and he gave me his number, and we talked while I was in jail, occasionally twice or something. So I had his number, and when I got released, he was the first person to come see me.
That's awesome. Kind of a lifeline, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, he came down. We built a connection in 6 months, and he came down and he gave me some money and said, if you need anything, let me know. And, I just talked to him last week. He's like a brother. And then the 3 other guys that I met in Degnan, 2 of them were workout partners. One was my roommate, my last roommate, and he reached out to me when he was released. It's atypical. A lot of guys will make friends while they're incarcerated and say, oh, we'll link up on the outside, or I'll put money on your books when I get released, or we'll stay in touch, I'll write you a letter. And they never do. And maybe I'm a good judge of character, but
you've networked with guys who look out for each other.
Yeah, who follow up on their words. If they say they're going to call, they call. And, people inside jail oftentimes are different outside, and these guys have stayed the same, and we've built even stronger friendships.
That's nice to hear. Yeah. My mind is thinking about the friendships that you've built, sustained you inside, but also helped on the outside. Like you have looked out for one another and taken care of one another to reintegrate in a way that is supported by people who understand.
Yeah, I was getting to the opportunity part.
So let's go back to that.
I had a couple guys that I worked out with that I talked to, but it was solitary lifestyle, and getting to opportunity. I was working on myself and like, what type of man do I want to be? And then getting to opportunity, I'd considered who I want to be with myself, but didn't consider who I wanted to be socially, who I wanted to be with other people. And I got to a space where the humanity, like human connection between you and the professors and the inmates, and we let our guard down and become vulnerable. And that was part of like the writing process, becoming vulnerable. And started opening my mind up, my thoughts of who I want to become instead of how I want to interact with other people. Releasing this expectation of perfection for myself and for other people, and allowing myself to be vulnerable and treating other people with care when they're vulnerable with me, and the spirit of collaboration. So I was able to take those social lessons and those personal lessons about vulnerability out into the real world, we'll call it.
All through music.
Yeah. I don't think that we could have had that level of vulnerability, we could have had that level of collaboration without having music.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. What about musically? Creating something, what effect did that have on you while you were inside?
It's the most therapeutic thing that I've ever done, singing. And being an opportunity and being able to sing and encouraged to sing and doing it with other people is even more therapeutic than doing it by yourself. To do it as a group, it was freeing. I don't think that we could have had that level of vulnerability without music. I know that I couldn't, because singing specifically is what makes me feel free and happy and okay. And to feel free and happy and okay with other people.
In jail.
Yeah, in jail, anywhere, but especially in jail, is something precious, is something to be cherished. Yeah.
Do you remember what songs you wrote and performed?
I do. I remember the Wish I May, I Might.
Wish I may, I might just change. Wish I may, I might. Though it's gonna feel so strange, gonna change something tonight. It's gotta change.
You performed in the showcase, right? Was your family there?
Yeah.
Worcester doesn't allow contact visits. So for 18 months, you were cut out from your people. Your parents came in and watched you perform. What was that like to have that kind of an accomplishment inside the facility and have your parents there witness to that?
That was a huge thing. The biggest impression with the family part was my mom. We had a rough relationship growing up. She had me and my sister when she was very young. I can see now, like, she was a kid raising kids. To see her be simultaneously just overwhelmed with joy and pride, and to be teary-eyed, to be sad a little bit. And I know it was special for her just to be invited. I can't really speak to her lived experience, but how I witnessed it. It was bonding for her and I. It was bonding for me to her.
Healing?
Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, that's a good word.
Did that experience carry with you outside once you were released?
Yeah, our relationship is way better than it used to be. Way better than it used to be. And part of that is work that I've done on myself and she's done on herself. A big part of that was like that realization that my mom loves me. And
in that moment?
In that moment there, and when she came to the program, that she loves me and she's doing her best, and she's always kind of done her best. Again, relax these expectations of perfection, right?
That's a pretty remarkable theme that just came through in terms of your experience in the program. Thank you for that. Is there anything else you want to say about your time with opporTUNEity inside the jail?
It might be hard for me to express it, but it struck me that it's important for incarcerated men to be in a community together, not to be inmates together, but to be part of a small collaborative community together, to be around other people who aren't their equal inmates and who aren't authoritative figures, but people like you and the interns, the students that came. If we're gonna reintegrate into society or in community, to start practicing having community and to start practicing being vulnerable and letting our guard down and being collaborative.
Like authentic community,
Yeah.
forced community.
Yeah, I started that class with the understanding that I could go to one and never go to another. And I don't think anybody left. I think everybody continued to come to that class. And we were there because we chose to be there. That's the starting place, is we chose to be there. We had authentic connections. We had authentic, genuine vulnerability. And like I said, nothing is more connecting than music.
Yep.
You can listen to a song in any way. You could listen to Canon in D with no words. You can listen to any music anywhere ever and feel something because of it. We're so guarded. I think men in general, and inmates in general, and drug addicts, we're so guarded emotionally, and to have something that connects people on an emotional level and to be in a place where our vulnerability is dropped. It's very few things that are as important as that for inmates who are going to come home, or for inmates who are going to be living with other inmates, right? Let's be people. Let's allow ourselves to be people, because we want to be these fortresses.
The interesting thing about your class is that you and John Wayne, and then there was Josh, the three of you had just such incredible talent and capacity as musicians, because that was my first time in that kind of a environment. It was my first time witnessing families. It breaks me down to like my core.
Yeah.
It changed me forever, right? Yeah. And changed, I think, the way that I relate to this work and am driven for this work, just because of how I've seen those connections. When you're at your worst state, when you've like made your biggest mistakes, and your family still shows up for you because they still purely love you. Okay, so you made it through those 18 months, opporTUNEity. We connected. You made some beautiful work. You made some connections. You healed. You changed you.
Yeah.
I don't want to simplify it, but I want to move into where you are now. So you were released.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you maybe have had some ups and downs since then. You're on a good path now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
So for that time during COVID, the jail paid for an after incarceration class. We called it the Songwriter Circle. And you and John Wayne participated in that. You signed on to Zoom weekly, you wrote songs, you shared songs.
Yeah.
Like you kind of continued.
Yeah. It was nice to maintain a connection to what we had in there, to remind myself of what we were and who I was trying to be.
Right? Have you written any songs since?
No, other than for Nico, but there's nothing in the world that's ever inspired me more than having a child to be artistic. And
actually, for you, being artistic means overcoming your inclination towards perfection. But you're overcoming that because of your son, right?
Yeah.
So you are writing music,
yeah.
but you're bypassing the pressure part of writing music, and you're just purely giving.
And I think that I will actually write things. On the same note, having children and getting rid of the perfection and just being for them because you're inspired. So I played baseball as a kid, and I said, I want to dance. There was a kid in my 5th grade who danced. I tap, jazz, ballet. I did that for years until the end of high school.
And your parents were cool with it.
They was totally cool with it. I was a super talented ballet dancer, one of the freest I've ever felt.
Is this through high school?
I loved it, yeah, through high school. I'm still doing drugs and then going to ballet lessons. So we went to a wedding, my wife's a friend from college wedding recently. And I have this anxiety about dancing publicly, unless it's a performative dance. And I've made this decision to release shame or anxiety or fear, because I got a little boy who needs to see what confidence is and what fearlessness is. And he's not there watching me, but my dad says the only way to be the man that you want to be tomorrow is to start being him today.
So did you dance?
Yeah, hell yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, because I can't not do things because I want to be perfect or because I feel shame or anxiety. Thank God for him, it's good for me. And if it's good for me, it'll be good for him too. That's part of where I'm at right now.
You sound like you have a good dad.
Yeah, I've wanted to be a father since I was in single digits because I saw how much he enjoyed it and how much I enjoyed having him as a father. He's a human being. He's a recovering addict and alcoholic. He's got his issues as a person. And I think fortunately, as a kid, I was smart enough to see that being a dad and being a person in the world, like I can admire my dad, who he is as a father. I don't need to admire him, who he is as like a person in the world. I feel like that's diving into something else. Yep. But yeah, if I can be half as good a father to Nico as my dad was to me, I'll be crushing it. I'll be crushing it. Yeah.
Nico's lucky.
Yeah.
Where do you see your life going now, and where do you want to be?
I'm super grateful. I feel blessed that I make enough money where she can stay home with him right now. So I'm fortunate for that. We're fortunate for that. And it's tough to make a 5-year plan because we're choosing to have the time with Nico as opposed to having the money. Mm-hmm. I would like to, in the next 5 years, 6 years, to have a home that's ours, that has a community of kids around for him to play with, good school. Mm-hmm. I work 6 days a week right now, but to do as many music classes with him as I can. I just come home from work and come around and he's so excited to see me. And so the trajectory for me, I started working for my cousin's business. He owns a home finishing showroom that he opened 2 years ago. I've been there for a year and a half. When we open a second location, I'd like to manage that. I would like to get back into managing a business and feel responsible for something bigger than myself professionally. So that's where I want to go there, and where I want to go as a parent, which is, I think, the most important thing, is I just want to be present. I want to take those music classes with him as often as I can. She gets laughs out of him for her things, but the biggest smiles and laughs I get out of him is when I'm holding him in my arms and we're dancing and I'm singing, and I'm getting teary-eyed because it's just the most pure thing. It's just the most pure laugh. It's just the most pure love in both directions. And I share dance and singing with him, the most pure connection and joy that we have together. So doing as much of that as I can. Be present and try to encourage in the subtle ways that I can his mind to expand, his curiosity to enlarge, his courage to grow. I have goals for me and for us as a family, professionally, buying a house, saving money, but the ultimate goal in that financial realm, home ownership, career, it all boils down to him. I'm okay not having elaborate things. I like to be content. I like not to be afraid or live paycheck to paycheck. But the thing that supersedes all of that is to be present with him. And I said years ago, what AA gave me is it allowed me to become an active participant in my own life. So to continue being an active participant in my own life and actively participate and observe his.
That says it. And I think maybe hopefully someday he'll hear this and have a real deep appreciation for, or deeper than he probably already will have, for you and your life and your intention. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, what an experience.
What an experience. The through line in this conversation, the thing I keep returning to, is this. Travis has always known what made him feel whole. He just kept losing access to it. It starts with his father. His dad sang Summertime to him every night before bed. the same way Travis now sings Sweet Baby James to Nico before he can even understand the words. They drove down Southbridge Street together singing James Taylor so loud that a friend called Travis on his cell phone and asked what they were arguing about. Travis recognized early that the connection he had with his father through music was something other kids didn't necessarily get. It was specific to them. It was theirs. His father is also a recovering addict and alcoholic. Honest with Travis about it from the time he was young, and Travis, hearing all of it, made a decision as a teenager that he wasn't going to use. He just wasn't going to do that. What he did instead was start selling drugs, because money felt like safety, and because the need to cover something internal doesn't wait for you to find a healthy outlet. Here is a thing about Travis that I keep coming back to. At the same time he was dealing drugs in high school, he was taking ballet. Tap, jazz, classical. He started in 5th grade and danced through the end of his high school, and he told me that one of the freest feelings he has ever had in his life was leaping. He wasn't hiding either thing. They coexisted in the same week, the same person. Someone who could feel that free in a dance studio was also building a drug network. That isn't a contradiction. It's a person who was many things at once, and yet hadn't found a way to let the beautiful parts be enough. Then the addiction took the dancing and the singing. He told me that when he was using, he stopped singing altogether. That addiction, at its core, is a form of disconnection. From relationships, from curiosity, from music, from yourself. The singing only came back when he was incarcerated, alone in a cell at the Worcester County House of Correction, because it was the only thing left that still felt like him. He sang for hours, in his cell, walking the tier, anything that came to mind, including songs his father had given him. And then he walked into our class and couldn't write a word. Not because he had nothing to say, because he had never been allowed to say it imperfectly. The same standard that made him a gifted student, a meticulous worker, and a loyal friend, made starting feel like a failure. He watched John Wayne Cormier and others throw things on the page without flinching, and slowly something in him started to loosen. A word here, a revision there, a line on someone else's lyric, and then one day, his own song. He performed it at the end of semester showcase. His mother was in the room, sitting inside the facility where her son was incarcerated, watching him perform something he made. He said she was simultaneously tearful and proud. He said he couldn't speak to what she felt, only to what he witnessed. What he witnessed was love, and it changed how he saw her. Releasing the expectation of perfection, it turns out, doesn't just apply to songwriting. It applies to people. Travis recently got up and danced at a wedding. Him, the trained ballet dancer, who spent years standing at the edge of the floor because of what someone might think. He danced because his son needs to see what fearlessness looks like. His father's voice behind him. The only way to be the man you want to be tomorrow is to start being him today. The music his father gave him, the voice he found in that jail, the song he is now building his son's childhood around, that is the thread, and it has never broken. Travis, thank you for trusting me with this. Each episode of inTUNE includes a segment called The Pulse, where we step back from the conversation and offer something practical for the educators, teaching artists, and advocates listening. Today's comes directly from what Travis shared about his experience in our program. The thing I want to put in your hands today is this. Perfectionism is one of the most common and least named barriers in music education, and it shows up with particular force in populations that have spent years being evaluated, judged, and reduced. The creative blank page carries that history, and telling someone to just try doesn't dissolve it. What dissolved it for Travis wasn't better instruction. It was watching a peer do it imperfectly and survive. Here are 3 strategies grounded in what he described. 1. Build a regular, low-stakes, generative practice and protect it. Object writing. A word on the wall, 10 minutes, write whatever comes, no revision. Object writing does something encouragement alone cannot. It creates a room where rough output is the visible, normal thing. If your curriculum moves too quickly toward a product, you may be skipping the step where perfectionism gets metabolized. Guard that step. 2. Let peer modeling do the heavy lifting. Travis didn't need to watch a teaching artist model vulnerability. He needed to watch John Wayne Cormier throw something imperfect on the page and keep going. In populations where trust in authority figures has been damaged, peer modeling inside the group may be the most powerful pedagogical tool you have. design for it, and give people room to watch each other. 3. Make participation genuinely voluntary. Travis had no good time to earn, no incentive to show up. He came because he wanted to, and he stayed because it was worth staying for. Programs that are mandatory or strongly incentivized can fill a room, but they cannot replicate what happens when people choose to be there. If your program lives inside a coercive system, ask yourself what you can do to create genuine, opt-in moments within it. That is where the room changes. And one more thing, because Travis said it and it's worth repeating. He told me that in our program, for the first time, he found himself thinking not just about what he wanted to be alone, but who he wanted to be with other people. Music opened that question, and the room held it. That's the work. That's all of it. If you are sitting with any of this in your own program and want to think it through, reach out. That's what this segment is for. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. If this conversation resonated, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. It really helps others find the show. You can also send me your questions or coaching topics at opportunitymusic.org/intune, and I might feature them in a future episode. That's opporTUNEity music.org/intune. Until next time, stay inspired, stay connected, and keep making music that brings people together.